Hey everyone, today we're looking at Kraken, the first expansion for Abyss from designers Bruno Catala and Charles Chevalier. The power struggle is still going on deep undersea, but this time the Kraken smugglers are involved, introducing a new type of currency, the corrupted dark pearls. Let me show you how it's played. Before diving in the rules of Kraken, I highly recommend you to watch the episode dedicated to the base game Abyss. As an expansion, Kraken builds on these rules and adds several new modules to the core game. Let's start by talking about the Kraken race, which comes alongside the 5 other races. The value for the Kraken cards spread from 2 to 4. In other words, there aren't any value 1 or value 5 cards for the Kraken race. Acting like wild cards, the Kraken aren't bound to any color and can be put away in any section of the council after an exploration. They can also replace any other race cards while recruiting a lord, but cannot be affiliated. Using these cards doesn't go without consequences. A player who relies on the Kraken cards to recruit a lord receives as many black pearls as shown on the used cards. These black pearls are called nebulous and are considered dirty money that will penalize the players if they're not careful. At the end of the game, every single nebulous still owned is worth 1 negative point, and the player with the most nebulous at the end of the game will lose 5 extra points. During the game, the player with the most nebulous will get the Kraken figurine. Depending on the number of black pearls, the figurine is passed from player to player to easily identify who's the most corrupted around the table. Better keep away from the dirty money then. Well, that's easier said than done, because even by taking extra care to not use any Kraken cards while recruiting a lord, all the Kraken cards that we still have in our possession at the end of the game are immediately converted in nebulous, which are negative points. Obviously, a player who really doesn't want to mess with the Kraken will have to make sure not to grab any of those cards when he's requesting the support of the council. Nebulous are still useful though. They can help pay for an ally card during another player's turn or complete the value required to recruit a lord. But a player can only use a single nebulous per turn, and only if he already spent all of his regular pearls. In other words, a player must use all of his white pearls first and only then add a single black one if necessary when recruiting a lord or buying an ally. The Kraken expansion introduces 18 new lords in the court. 10 of them belong to the 5 regular races. The other 8 are smugglers linked to the Kraken who don't require any specific colors to be recruited. Their powers all revolve around nebulous pearls. For instance, the outlaw can use 2 nebulous to buy something, while the counterfeiter is allowed to use a nebulous even if the player still has some white pearls available. 3 smugglers work with a token in order to reserve a different lord, a stack of cards from the council, or a location. Only the player who placed a token can then recruit the specific lord, grab the pile of cards at the council, or take control of the location. Nothing prevents the player from taking other lords' stacks of cards or locations while still reserving one of the categories for as long as he wishes, but 2 players cannot simultaneously have tokens placed in the same area. For instance, it is not allowed to have 2 tokens placed on lords in the court. Finally, this expansion opens the gate to 6 new locations. 2 of the locations work like the locations from the base game and give points according to the number of smuggler lords recruited or to the amount of nebulous owned. The 4 other locations are all based on the push-your-luck mechanism. The Megalodon, the Cetacean Graveyard, the Abandoned Convoy, and the Battlefield all work the same. When a player takes control of one of these locations, he grabs the tile like usual, but also draws a card from the new loot deck. The values of the cards from the loot deck spread from 3 to 7, and there are respectively 3 cards of value 3, 4 cards of value 4, and so on and so forth, up to 7 cards of value 7. On top of the influence points they grant, some of these cards also come with additional loot. For instance, all the value 3 cards provide a key on top of the 3 influence points they gave, while the value 5 cards provide an extra monster token. When a player draws a card, he takes and keeps the loot printed on the card. He can then decide to continue or to stop there. If he continues and draws a different card, that's great. He scores more influence points and possibly get more loot. But if he draws a card identical to a card already drawn, the 2 twin cards are discarded. The player will keep all the loot found until then, but the number of influence points given by the location will be based on the card still visible. It's up to the player to feel how far he can push his luck to acquire the most loot without losing too many points. The rest of the game works like the base game. Players keep playing until one of them recruits a 7th lord, or until there aren't enough lords to completely refill the court. The scoring is still based on influence points received from recruited lords, affiliated allies, controlled locations, and monster tokens. This time around though, you also have to subtract a point for every nebulous that you own, and you also have to convert your Kraken cards into nebulous, so into negative points. The player with the most nebulous will also lose 5 extra points. Yeah, corruption is a dangerous game to play in the troubled water of Abyss. Anyway, at that point, the player with the most points wins the game. And there you go, now you know how to play Abyss with the Kraken expansion, so have fun, and I'll see you in another episode with another board game on the table. Take care.